Welcome to Decades, hosted by Chris Rubio. Decades is a show made up of 5 generations of people brought together to discuss topics you wouldn't normally talk about with others. The goal of the show is to learn by having some good, possibly heated discussions, without losing the simple fact that it's okay to talk to different people with different opinions other than your own.
Welcome to Decades. My name is Chris Rubio, host of Decades. We've got people from Florida, Texas, Philly, North Carolina, California, Virginia, double Virginia, Washington, and Idaho. And I think a couple other people are coming on. So we're going to have a great show. Welcome to Sub 60 Ed, Crazy Man, Gru, Tony, Chalice, TC, Bill Geyser, and Craig Hannum. Sub 60's out. That's always a good thing. All right, guys. It's been 2 weeks since we've been together. There's just a couple things to talk about. I don't know. Let's start with, let's say 8 days of El Trumpo. Good, bad, trash, wonderful, what you expected, not what you expected. We'll start with you, Charles Wallace, since you're the baby of the group.
I couldn't be happier. We haven't been this back in my entire life. We've never been this back.
And what do you mean by that?
America is so back.
Would you like to go into more detail than that, Chalice?
Well, if all you got to do is just look at the aesthetics of it all too. Like look at the press secretary, look at everybody involved. I have a penchant for blondes. I could not be any happier with how things are going right now.
How do you really feel, man? Come on.
We just keep. We're so back. I'll leave it at that for now. We'll get into more as the night goes on, but we're so back.
Okay, we're going to go to Tony because he's obviously the best dressed person here with his phenomenal UCLA sweatshirt. Go ahead, Tony. Even though you're in North Carolina now, you're still repping the Bruins.
Yeah, half of my wardrobe is still UCLA clothes. I'm honestly, I'm ambivalent. I mean, we're getting exactly what he promised. Mm-hmm. People who voted for Trump are getting deported, and I don't care. That's on them. He told you he was going to do it, and he's doing it. He's not lowering the price of anything, but it was never in his control anyway. So we knew that. We knew that it was an empty promise. So honestly, I'm pretty ambivalent. It is what he said it was going to be. I think a lot of people will suffer for it. Right now, we're freezing federal funding for things like Medicare and Medicaid and school lunch programs, but you know what? Don't be old, don't be poor under Trump, and there's your message.
Okay, Bill Geyser.
Well, I'm pleased that generally he is living up to his campaign promises. The one comment I would make though, Tony, about lowering prices is he's been in office for 8 days, 9 days. I mean, it takes anywhere from 1 to 3 months for policy changes to work their way through supply chains and things like.
I think it's going to take longer than that, and I'm fine with it.
Well, let me finish. You say the cost of eggs. Well, you have to transport eggs, and eggs are fragile. It requires a lot of handling, and if you just lower the price of transportation of eggs, you're going to see it's a commodity. The price is going to come down. So give him 30 days and then we can have a conversation. But to make a claim that everyone knew it was something he couldn't do, I think that's bullshit.
Well, if you guys, I don't know if you guys watched the press secretary today, all 27 years old of her, which Chalice is in love with because she's blonde and they're the same age. She did say that Joey B had 100 million chickens killed. So obviously that's going to be an issue. I mean, chickens create eggs. I'm not a farmer, but I know that. Michael, are you eating anything tonight? Michael, mute.
You're on mute. Oh, sorry. I'm not on mute. I may be muted by Sub 60, but I'm not on mute. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay. So, I'm not eating eggs because the price isn't going to go down because and Trump can't do anything about the avian flu except probably make it worse by continuing to, cut programs that probably want to do scientific research and stuff like that. But, I'm with Tony to the extent that I'm exhausted by the fact that He's doing everything he said he would. And because I'm a lawyer, I sort of see the long game in my head, which is he's going to do, a whole bunch of stuff. 9/10 of it's going to get challenged in the courts. Things are going to get frozen. Lots of constitutional lawyers are going to make a lot of money, which I don't have a problem with. I'd rather have them make money than Wall Street lawyers. It's going to crunch its way up the court system. And the race will really be to see whether it gets to the Supreme Court before the midterms. And if the midterms flip the House or the Senate, how that affects the shit he's trying to do. Sorry, watch the language. But I mean, I just think for me, it's just exhausting because this happened a bunch of times with issues here and there in his first term. And now it's going to happen, I think, 20 times as many times because of all of the executive orders he's signing left and right and willy-nilly. So I think you're going to see a lot of schlogs of stuff in the courts for the next 2 to 4 years, for sure.
Okay. Hannum, go ahead. Hannum, go ahead.
Oh, no. My question was, what's a slog?
Oh, a slog is a combination between a shitstorm and a slog.
I dig it. I like it. I'm going to use that.
What the hell's a
slog? High school, so I have to be careful what I say. So I like slog. Yeah.
What's a slog?
The end. Watch the. It's
just going to be It's going to be a grind. It's just going to be a grind.
Okay.
It's going to be a merciless. It's going to be. Trial, result, appeal, result, appeal, all the way up. It's going to be the federal courts are going to get involved. The state courts. It's just going to be crazy.
Is it different than
what
Biden
about
did,
his deportation?
just
That's not slogged.
Well, so some of the stuff he can do right away until it's challenged. What'll happen is somebody who gets deported and the ACLU will take it to court, and then we'll see what happens. But until it actually gets brought to court, now some of the stuff is already in court. I think the revoking of the birthright has already hit some courts, so that'll hit courts. Then you'll see the way things are being done will be challenged as constitutional. For instance, I read a sort of absurd scenario today where in I think it's Mississippi, there's an opportunity to get $1,000 from the law enforcement community if you help to deport an illegal immigrant and you're a bounty hunter. And in Mississippi, it costs something like $45 to get your bounty hunter license. So if you're me, all you picture is a whole bunch of guys with nothing better to do going up and rounding out anybody who speaks Spanish and dragging them into a government office, hoping they're going to get $1,000 for it. And it's going to be a goddamn mess.
I'm sorry, I'll only take 30 seconds, Chris, but doesn't the Constitution apply to citizens?
Yes, but the Supreme Court has interpretations of who it applies to and what that means, and that's what's going to be litigated. I'm not saying you're wrong at all. I'm just saying certain constitutional rights have been granted and expanded to tax-paying immigrants who have legal paperwork filed in different situations like that, whether they're actually citizens or not. And so whether they've earned their citizenship or not, the Supreme Court has expanded some of those definitions, and you're going to see a lot of litigation about this.
Okay, Gru, go ahead.
And by the way, whether you're a rightful citizen, whether you're rightfully allowed in America, whether you've got paperwork or not, the whole trial about that is still under due process of law. So if a guy gets grabbed by ICE and thrown across the border, and he's claiming, I have a green card application in, I'm allowed to be here, I didn't do anything wrong, I've got the right paperwork filed, but they still toss him across the border, there's going to be a big without a due process of law, there's going to be a constant, you bet the ACLU is going to jump all over that, especially if ICE as practice aren't doing a very good job of checking that paperwork. Okay. So you're going to see a lot of those things happen. And if there's enough of them, the courts will say, we got to freeze this program until we just figure out what's going on. Okay, and so that's what I mean by a slog. It's going to be a mess.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. ACLU stands for American Civil Liberties Union. Okay, yep. Illegals by definition are not Americans. So
Yeah,
I mean,
but the point is, are we
want to-
debating whether the individuals are illegal or not? If the person's filed their paperwork and they're trying to become an American, the ACLU will take that case. Absolutely, they will.
Okay, but there are so many people who actually just here and didn't have any paperwork filed. Plenty of them.
I agree.
And
I agree. They probably are less likely to be successful.
And they did commit, additional crimes outside of coming to the country illegally. Okay, so these people should be deported, in my opinion. Okay, without any court or ACLU or anybody else involved.
Sure. I'm sure that is your opinion. I don't disagree. I don't necessarily disagree. If someone comes into our country illegally and is committing crimes, I don't necessarily have a problem with deporting him. But someone comes into our country and is cleaning houses and making a paycheck and paying taxes and hasn't, aside from crossing the border illegally, hasn't done anything wrong, and they've been in America for a certain number of years and they've tried to work the system, they've got their application in, they're not illegal. If they come here for political asylum and they've been granted political asylum, they're not illegal. There's a whole bunch of things that are called illegal immigrants that are not necessarily illegal. It's all a matter of semantics at some point.
Chalice, go ahead.
But if you came across the border illegally, I don't care if you're cleaning houses and you're minding your business otherwise, you have no right to be here.
You know what? Factually, that's correct, but good. Get used to $15 tomatoes if that's your policy.
I will get used to $50 and $60 tomatoes if it means that you can't just come in here willy-nilly.
No, and I'm not necessarily
second willy-nilly reference of the night.
Yeah, that's the second one. But by the way, saying we shouldn't deport people who have been in here illegally and paying taxes and they're law-abiding otherwise is not saying I want open borders. Let's not act like those two things are the same thing, because they're not. I recognize that we have a problem in our country with lots of illegal immigrants. And my solution is law-abiding, tax-paying illegal immigrants need a streamlined process to become citizens. Because with the exception of the fact that they cross the border illegally, especially if they've been here for years and kept their noses clean, that's what they need, not deportation.
I think we need a streamlined process for everybody here illegally, whether they're here illegally and committing 50 crimes a week or whether their only crime in 50 years was coming across illegally. I want a streamlined process for all of them to be shown the door out of our country.
We should have started with the grandparents of most of the people in this room then, because unless you're Native American, like I'm part of the Umatilla Indian tribe of Salem, Oregon, your grandparents came here illegally. Get off my land.
That's not true.
Sure it is.
That's not true at all.
My kids are Ellis Island. They registered.
Yeah. Okay. So, Bill Geiser, go ahead.
So I hear what Michael's saying, and I'll partially agree with you on one thing, that there are people that have been here. Maybe they've got some sort of claim or paperwork in there, and if they're a good person, they're working, they're paying taxes, that's not the focus of this initial, call it purge. What Trump is going after are criminals and the millions of people who ain't working on the tomato farm. So don't give me that story that they're all picking cotton or they're picking vegetables so you can buy a tomato for less than $1. That's not where they are. They're in Chicago. They're in New York. They're living on welfare. Their food's paid for. Their medicine is paid for. Their education is paid for. Well, we got veterans rotting in the streets. Get rid of every single one of those people. Every single one. Ship them out. They are a drag on society. That they're not contributing. Someone contributing, put them aside. Let's talk to that. That's a separate thing. But to paint the story that they're all working on farms, man, that's bullshit.
But just to be clear, undocumented immigrants aren't eligible for federal benefit programs. They can't.
There are no undocumented. They're either illegal or they're legal.
But all right, but illegal immigrants can't register for federal benefits.
Why not?
Because that's when ICE moves.
Why didn't they go through the proper channel of entering the country?
No. But okay, I don't know why they didn't go through the proper channels in the country.
Doesn't matter.
What I'm
then.
saying, what I'm
Bye-bye.
saying is, you made the claim that these illegal immigrants are in Chicago collecting welfare. They can't legally collect welfare without federal like that. Like that, it's just a.
They're getting. Look at well, you're thinking federal money now, but that's not how the game is played, and that's why Trump put the federal grant stop on it. Like Catholic Charities in Fort Worth, Texas, last year was given $279 million for refugee replacement.
Right, but so refugees.
You know what I say to the Pope? Sell some of that shit in the Vatican if you want to do that. I work too fucking hard for my money to pay taxes for those guys.
But time out. Refugees are political asylum seekers who aren't.
That's just a name they
illegally.
give them. They're illegals.
They're not illegals.
They're
If
illegals.
Under political asylum, they're not illegals.
This
No,
is
we'll
all
never agree on
semantics.
that.
This is all semantics. We had an election. This is all semantics. We had an election.
I know.
This lost decisively at the ballot box. We've rejected this. We want them gone.
It lost decisively in the Electoral College. It didn't lose decisively in the ballot box.
The popular
Percentage
the
of the
popular
population.
vote. The popular vote was clear on this. The electoral college was clear. The swing states were clear. We call that either an ass kicking or a mandate. Your pick.
Well, okay. I think I have a different view on that percentage wise, but it doesn't matter. I don't disagree with you that the election got lost. He's going to sign as many executive orders as he can. Like I said, it's exhausting. I'm bored with it. Like Tony, he's going to sign as many executive orders as he can, but not every court ignores stare decisis and precedent. And there are lots of cases on the books about how immigrants, political asylum seekers, undocumented immigrants, documented immigrants, legal immigrants, how they're all treated. I'm just telling you what's going to happen. I'm not arguing one way or the other. It's going to work its way through the court system slowly. There's already been brakes put on getting rid of birthright citizenship. A bunch of the things he's signed right away, there's already been brakes put on them. And I'm not saying they're not eventually going to happen. The ICE thing, yeah, that's happening real fast. It's happening real fast until one of the ICE guys, or they start tossing people that are documented in the wrong direction over the border. And then there's going to be a bunch of ACLU cases. And then someone's going to say, we got to pump the brakes this program. So I wouldn't get used to seeing these pictures in the paper every day.
A quick question, though. If someone comes up to me being the darkest one on the panel right now, and says, oh, my God, I'm ICE. You're getting the hell out of here. You're gone. Right. What is stopping me from just showing my ID and saying, no, I'm a resident?
Nothing at all.
Because they had guys do that in Newark on Friday night. They were actually military veterans, and they were thrown in jail for 48 hours anyway while it worked itself out. That's disgusting. These guys were military vets with paperwork, and they spend 48 hours in a Newark detention center because of ICE. So yeah, eventually, Chris, you'll show your papers, but you're not going to get freed right there on the spot. Absolutely not. The whole point is to round up. He took the restrictions off. ICE going into churches. So sure, they're going to hit up the Catholic churches. They're going to hit up you Methodists and you Baptists and everyone else who's got some illegals in their church. ICE is going to walk into your church and arrest people. So there's a hearty Christian value. They can walk into
There's
schools.
no Christian value that says we need to have people here who have no business being here. Nowhere in the Bible does it say let everybody and everybody into your country.
I've got a wrench when you're ready.
Oh, hey, there's a lot in the Bible that says to take care of the neighbor who comes.
Yeah, the neighbor, not the people who are here illegally.
Follow the money.
That's because the Bible doesn't mention illegal immigrants. There's no such reference.
And are you a practicing Catholic?
No, I left the Catholic
Okay, so then
Church
don't try to pull that
decades
shit on me. Don't reference the Bible when it's convenient to you when you don't know what you're talking about.
Hang on. While you're lecturing me.
The guy who just brought up Christian values.
Yeah, because my point is Trump ran on the basis of what the evangelicals. They were far in his corner. So it matters. It absolutely matters.
But there's nowhere in the Bible where it says people can just come into your country and you have to open your doors and say, here, come in, come one, come all. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that you have to do that or that you should do that.
It does say
There's nothing that
now,
literal. Go ahead,
no
sorry.
adultery.
It says what?
Honor thy mother and father, no adultery. Well, look at Trump. Trump has had many affairs and so.
But I'm not the one referencing the Bible. I'm saying I don't want.
No,
people to
I'm actually agreeing with
Trump
Michael.
his
on
evangelical
there should be a
supporters.
streamline of people that are here illegally. Because as I am a school teacher, we have students that are afraid to come or leave their houses. I don't care if you're here legally or illegally. When you're a teacher and you have to teach students from elementary to high school. I mean, kids.
But why are they scared? But why are they scared to leave their houses?
You have some people that are here legally.
So then they should probably go back to where they came from.
I think
Is that a public school?
Wait, can I ask a question? Can I ask a question of Crazy Man? What grade do you teach?
I currently teach in elementary, but I did teach a Title I school for 7 years, where 76% of the population was Hispanic.
Okay, so then we're talking. The demand is that third graders go back home, just pack up and go back home because they're here illegally. I mean, come on.
Unless those third graders,
I wouldn't say that.
Unless those third
No, of
graders
course
have
not.
documentation.
I'm saying that.
I'm a little confused though. Here's the one thing, Grill, and then I'll come back to you. If okay, say Chalice comes in illegally, okay, and he's an adult, and he brings over his kids illegally, and they're like Crazy Man's is teaching them kids, third graders. They're what are they, 8 years old at that point, 8, 9 years old. If you came in illegally and you know you're illegal, I think Chalice is saying what stopped them from becoming legal at some point, and you know you're in the house illegally. Okay, and then finally someone catches you in the living room. You can't say like, oh, I was trying to, get my legal residence here and get my zip code and DMV, whatever. But you just kept living in the living room the entire time illegally. I think that's the point here. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, so that's exactly my point. Because the immigration system is so bureaucratic and so expensive to get a good lawyer to represent you if you don't speak English, because it's such a goddamn bureaucratic quagmire. These people, this is why look, we can talk about two different things: what we do at the border going forward and what we do with the people in this country now, right? Mass deportations, we're going to run out of money before we get rid of all these people. It's just not going to happen. We need to streamline the immigration process, take a beat, and take the people who are here undocumented, and if they're law-abiding people paying taxes and contributing to their communities, figure out how to get them in through the system.
No, get them out.
Let me ask that a question in that regard. For those people that aren't working, that are having to depend on public aid for their welfare, for their food, housing, shelter, they came across illegally. There's no paperwork. Are we obligated to keep paying for them, or should we send them back?
I think two things are true. I think if you give me a scenario like that and they're not paying taxes, so they're just basically freeloading, I don't necessarily have a problem with deporting them. I just think you're going to find that that's a shockingly lower number than Fox News is letting you believe.
I don't pay attention to Fox. I listen to independent journalists where you really hear the truth.
I just don't think you're going to find that they're really that welfare immigrant paper tiger is as big as you think it is.
I think everybody.
I disagree.
I think everybody on this panel. I think everybody on this panel would be shocked at the number of young people in this country who don't give a shit about the semantics of it and want our country back. That's what we want. We don't care. Oh, well, if they're undocumented, but they're documented or they're trying to do it the right way. The amount of people my age and younger who do not give a damn about any of that and want all of these people out of the country is staggering.
What do you mean by our country? Who's our?
My country back.
Who's our? What do you mean you want your country back?
Are you mad that more people speak Spanish now in America than did 50 years ago?
Oh, yeah. If you live in America, you should speak English. Yeah, and Tony? What do you mean your country?
It is a requirement for citizenship.
I'm Native American. It was mine before it was yours.
Well, you never had a country here. There was a war about the country, and Native Americans were conquered in that war, and then European settlers built a country, but there was no country for them to come to that Native Americans had.
I think there were definitely different nations. They just
and they were all
looked
warring
like European nations.
And they were all warring.
There was the Iroquois nation. There was the Delaware
and they were at war with each other.
I got to interrupt.
And then what happened?
There's
Europeans
one part
came here
Michael
and conquered them.
I want to talk about.
Hold on. Let me go TC then Hannah.
Cool.
And then
Right. And again, I'll try to keep it to under 30 seconds because that's what you asked us at the beginning. So I want to go back to Tony and Chalice, not as the reigning, but as one who holds my faith fairly dear to my heart. And I don't know the scriptures or the verse or anything like that. I just know the principle. And I think it goes along the same thing with me protecting my home. I think we should protect our borders, but I also think that we should love the person. Okay. That's the principle that I try to live by. I don't have to like that they're here. I'm not going to not feed them. I'm not going to take care of them. I'm not going to love them. I'm not going to, but I still feel in my heart that they should do the right thing and not be here. If they're here, it's not up to me to send them out. It's up to me to love them and let the government deal with it. Just like when I worked at a prison, I'm not there to punish them. I'm there to keep them in and make sure all of my people go home at the end of the night. I'm not there to enact punishment. My job as a Christian is to show God's love to people. Okay. And that means that I love the person. I don't have to love what they did, but I have to love the person. So 38
and I applaud
seconds,
that.
sorry.
I applaud that response. I know you need to go on to someone else. I'm just going to say with TC, I applaud.
Yeah, let's ask Laken Riley's family how she feels about that.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
love this. All kumbaya around the campfire. Let's ask Laken Riley's mother how she feels about that.
No, that's a good point, Charles, because a lot of folks were killed by illegals who were career criminals. We all agree on that? Okay, cool.
I agree.
Okay, far off. Now, let's go to what Michael said, because I've been kind of keeping some notes here about federal funding and everyone getting federal welfare. They weren't. We could follow the money, like Bill says, which I did. If we follow the money, is it possible that the states were getting federal funding that were being funneled down to the sanctuary cities? No one was getting federal subsistence. They were getting city subsistence in all these sanctuary cities. We know this. Follow the money, right? Yes. But let's not forget that Obama holds the record as far as a U.S. sitting president to have the most mass criminal deportations on record.
That's
now,
right.
Is Trump probably going to surpass that? Probably. The majority of the people here he is deporting, it sucks. Like you said, Tony, it sucks that certain folks are getting caught in the web here. And this is a very sticky web of this mass deportations and ICE just going door to door, literally. I get that. But coming from somebody who served and had to assist custom officers in major crime investigations involving illegals who were career illegals, MS-13, Los Zetas were no one to freaking mess with. These guys could care less. They were not disciplined. They were just psychotic. The criminal gangs coming out of Venezuela. So we got to be careful about that term political asylum. I'm not a lawyer. You are, Michael. Right. But political asylum has to do with a country that is falling apart politically.
Right.
That's not my check.
No, I agree.
Okay, good. So we're good there. So
we shouldn't be giving political asylum to people that are coming here as career criminals. I'm with you.
Thank you. And I think that's what's a majority of that's what's happening. It sucks. You're right, Tony. It sucks that veterans are being caught in the web. Trust me, I'm retired Army. I'm a TCE. Very passionate about this stuff. And if Nick was on here, none of us would get a word in edgewise, I assure you. Okay. I mean, I love that dude. We've been there since, let's say, mud. But I'm at the core of this. When it comes to placing blame, if you follow the money, you find out which city leader actually created programs to say, bring me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. We misinterpreted that principle. That's not what it meant. And I'm a Republican, but Obama held the record on mass deportations for illegal criminals. They should not fucking be here. I'm with Charles on this. Anybody who came in illegally, you are in violation, whether a U.S. citizen or not, a violation of Title 8, Section 1352. Am I correct on that? Which is illegal entry into the United States, which only has 3 criteria. It's very simple. There's only 3 ways you can violate that. Under false pretenses, false pretenses. You came in, you criminally, you lied, you know. Oh, you said, oh, no, I'm getting married. Oh, no, you lied. Or you try to create some kind of business. There's only 3 categories of that bill that says this is illegal. To me, that's not a crutch. That it narrows it down to the fact that you came here illegally under false pretenses, and anyone who came here to commit crimes and or set up I know we'll go beyond my 30 seconds, but here's my worry as a former counterterrorism expert. When are the bombs going to start exploding?
Right. Listen,
we just activate all these cells by saying, we're getting you out of here tomorrow.
Right. Real quick, though, I do want to make sure I reiterate this distinction I have, right? I don't disagree with you. If someone could come up with a good way tomorrow to set up an immigration system that at the borders, you're either filing the right paperwork and following the rules, or you're coming in as the right kind of political asylum and following the rules, or you're not allowed in, I'm fine with that.
But Michael, for example, you're from Croatia and you want to get the frog fart out of the Balkans, and you hear a leader of the biggest and most powerful country in the world with the biggest military and most powerful military the world's ever seen say, open borders, come in. What are you going to do?
So I don't want open borders. You're
going to circumvent everything.
No, but I said
the president allowed you to circumvent it. Where's the paper trail, man?
No, what I'm saying is, if there's a system, that's why I want to streamline and fix our immigration system. If there's a system in place,
I don't disagree with you. Yeah.
What?
I don't disagree with you, but what does that mean? What does that look like?
You know what? This is where you're above my pay grade because I'm not a legislator, and I'm not so sure there is a perfect answer. But we're dealing with 2 different problems here, right? Let's say you've got 27 puppies, right? You got to do 2 things. You got to take care of the puppies you have, and you got to spay the dogs that are having puppies. I'm all right with any program that makes sense, that shuts the border, controls the border in a way where we're really only letting the people in that our elected officials have said should be here. Legal immigrants, right? But that doesn't change the fact that our country is filled right now with illegal immigrants. And you can just stop feeding the puppies and let them die or shovel them out the door. But if the puppies are actually like working and paying taxes and doing things, and they're not hurting anybody, and maybe what I'm talking about here is some sort of amnesty program for people who have been here a certain length of time, have become useful members of their community. Yes, they committed the cardinal sin of coming in the country illegally, but getting rid of them isn't going to help anybody because actually you're just taking away tax revenue and you're maybe raising the costs of goods and services they're currently providing. So let's come up with something to address that, but that's separate from border security.
I get what you're saying, but amnesty is similar to pardon. You have to have committed a crime for me to give you amnesty. You must have committed a felony for me to give you a pardon.
I don't disagree. We're all in favor of pardons these days. Look at the guys on January 6th. They love their pardons.
Look at the Biden family.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I mean, both sides of the aisle seem to like pardons, right?
Real quick, Brew, I'm going to come. Go ahead, Brew, then I've got a comment.
Okay, quick thing. In California, illegals do get state benefits, such as in-state tuition to state universities, for example. And LA, for example, has been a sanctuary city when ICE goes to LA prison trying to arrest hardcore criminals who are here illegally. Local police doesn't want to talk to ICE, so ICE goes to the neighborhood, picks up the criminal, and picks up a bunch of people who are not technically criminals, but who are here illegally. So if LA was not a sanctuary city, then the ICE would have arrested only one hardcore criminal and didn't go through the whole neighborhood arresting everybody. And also, in 1986, we had amnesty when Reagan was president, okay? So amnesty happened, but border security did not happen. We don't want any second amnesty again, in my opinion.
Okay, so let's go back. Just recap here. So we all agree the border needs to be somewhat fixed. Can we all agree on that? Okay.
More than somewhat.
Streamlined, way of, Tony wants to come in. He goes through door number 1. He's got to answer these 4 questions. He's got to fill out these forms. Boom. Okay, this starts the process. We can all agree on something about that. But then I think here's the rub, where someone like Chalice or Hannum or Bill Geiser will say, but what about the last 4 years? where it's come one, come all. And so Tony and Mike, are you guys saying, well, 2 tiers in a bucket? F it. They're here now, so we really can't fix it. So we got to tend to the puppies that are here. We just can't stop feeding them. And we kind of lost, 10 to 14 million. Their puppies are out there. Is that what we're saying?
I'm not saying nobody gets deported. Obviously, violent criminals get deported. I'm even for, even guys who have figured out a way to cheat the welfare system and they're living a high on the hog. I'm okay with that. But if all they're doing is working at a gas station or working at a supermarket, keeping their nose clean, paying taxes, sending their kids to public school, trying to become members of a community, I don't see the benefit to throwing them out of the country. And frankly, there's probably a negative for throwing them out of the country. We need citizens like that. We need people who are willing to do low-paying jobs. We need people to set good examples in the community.
I get that, but the whole, we need people to do those jobs. This goes, well, only a handful of you can do this. Like if, let's say Gru, his barber dies, okay? It doesn't mean that he's never getting a haircut again, okay? It's one of those where he's going to find a new barber. So if these low-paying jobs are not occupied by, say, quote-unquote, people of brown descent that are picking avocados, it's not like the avocados are just not going to be picked. Okay, they're going to get picked. They might cost more, but like Chalice said, his generation, and this gets proven by the fact that Trump's approval rating right now is higher than it's ever been. So obviously he's got to be saying something right here. Go ahead, Hannah.
Yeah, but don't forget, Trump was quoted when he said, I want immigrants to come to my country. I want them to come in the right way.
Right, and I agree with that.
Okay, good.
Okay, Tony, go ahead. You were going to say something, and then TC.
Yeah, two things. One, we keep talking about, streamlining the system. What hasn't been brought up is it currently takes 7 to 8 years to get through the system. What are these people going to do while they're sitting here waiting for their court appointments and everything else? Do you want them to just sit around? Do you want them to go work? Do you want them to go to school? Do you want them to send their kids to school?
Want them to go home?
When we're going to streamline the process, we have to do it in a way that it does not take 8 years to get your citizenship for this country.
That's exactly what I mean by streamline the process.
I see what you're saying. I totally do too, Tony. But I think what Trump is doing is he's attacking this problem without a scalpel and hitting with a broadsword because it's that bad. We can all recognize it is that bad. How many? I get what he's doing. Visa, they are not allowed to protest in the United States if they're on a student visa. Right?
Yeah, look, I get what he's doing.
Why did he allow it?
And I understand his family uses illegal immigrants at their winery. So, look, what's good for the goose is good for the goose. Because Eric Trump is on the record talking about it.
Why do we act? And this isn't even just Tony.
Atlantic Monthly 2021.
I don't buy that.
I have a question for everybody. Why do we act like, even I would have a question for Donald Trump, because he did say that we need immigrants and we need immigrants who do it the right way. How many hundreds of millions of people do we already have in America? Why do we act like access to America is just some God-given right for every single person on the planet? We do not need more immigrants, whether legal or illegal. We need to worry about the hundreds of millions of people who are born in this country. That's what we need to worry about. Access to America. I would ask Donald Trump himself, why is access to America a God-given right for someone who might be a stand-up guy that's just going to come in here, even if they wait 8 years, and even if all they want to do is work at Buffalo Wild Wings? Why can't they do that in their own country? Why do we have to be the dumping ground for the entire world to come flooding into?
Why do we have to be Ronald Reagan's shining beacon on the hill? Is that the question?
Yeah, I think that's the question of the night, honestly. Good job, Charles.
But so another way to look at it, though, is we're recruiting talent. Like, I work in the software industry, and frankly, in the United States of America, we can't find the people to do the programming we need. They haven't been trained in it.
There's so many people.
Well, there are a lot of people, but they don't know how to do this.
But there are people who have degrees that can't find work.
And said everyone can learn to code. Is that it?
No, I'm not saying they can't learn. I'm just saying right now, if you want to run a company and you're looking for coders, you need to go to some other countries.
I don't think that's the case. There are people who have degrees that can't find work, but they want to get paid a living wage.
Well, they're not applying to our posts online. The only people on our posts.
There are so many people that are applying for jobs that are not getting interviewed. They're not getting called back. These companies are outsourcing the work, or they're giving the work to people that they can have work for lesser wages. And that is what we need to stop.
Elon Musk says we need the immigrants.
And Elon Musk got throttled on Twitter when he had that outburst, and he backed off of it so quick.
President Musk says we need it.
Can we do this?
President Musk doesn't exist. He got put in his place on Twitter, and he's been silent about it ever since.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I was going to say, let's ask the one person who did immigrate to the United States. Go, Guru.
My daughter had a degree. Finished degree in data science, computer science last June. She got a job, but a lot of her friends who got the degree at the same time as she is still looking for a job in the computer industry. Young people in their early 20s. Okay, so there are people who want to do the work and they're applying. They're using all kind of venues, but they still cannot find job because some of those jobs are being outsourced for cheaper labor elsewhere. And also, my second point, I had to wait a few years in Ukraine back in the day until I was allowed to come to this great country. I couldn't just jump over the border and say, hey, I'm here, give me benefits, okay? So, and if you're in this position, wait in your country and wait for your chance to enter, okay? This is all the legal paperwork, like I did.
Did you guys see the headlines about Colombia? All the people all the criminals are being sent back to Colombia. The residents of Colombia are saying, hey, what was it like? What would she do? The people coming off the plane are like, don't do it, just stay here. That I think that speaks volumes to say, hey, this process isn't working. They might have been more destitute trying to figure out just left and right limits on where to get food because they didn't have that consistent paycheck like all of us get to enjoy.
And I heard
I want to just address the elephant in the room. And has anybody ever, put out that Michael looks like Rob Reiner? I mean,
I did.
That's happened? Okay.
I owned that week one.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So military guys are seeing the same shit here. Okay. Thank you, TC.
Sometimes I get Jeffrey Tambor is the other one that people say I look like, but I get Rob Reiner too.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure.
Sub 60 telling me we're at 43. I know. Go ahead, Charles. Then we're going to adjust topics.
It baffles me because a lot of these countries, right, they're sending such great talent. They're sending their best. They're sending their brightest. But then when we try to send their best and their brightest talent back to them, they don't want to take them back. Why is that?
That's not who I'm talking about. India would take them back in a heartbeat.
Okay, then why don't they?
Because the people who come here don't want to live in India. They want to work here.
Well, and what gives them why? But here's the thing. That's all well and good. That's the luck of the draw. You were born in India. I don't know what to tell you.
Charles, I saw that article where 2 flights that were full that were going back into Mexico, and they said, no, we're not gonna let you land. Something happened in a very short period of time. If it was just me spitballing here, somebody from our State Department said, hey, do you enjoy trade with the United States? Let them land.
It wasn't Mexico.
Who was it?
Colombia. It was Colombia or Chile.
Okay. And it's very the answer on that is very simple. Joe Biden deported 8,000 people back to Colombia. But the Colombians were told to come with your plane, get your people out of ICE detention, and take them back home. What happened before with Trump was sending, without notice to Colombia, without any advance warning, sending military jets, cargo planes with these people shackled into Colombian airspace. And yeah, they freaked out. If a foreign country had done that to us and sent a plane into our airspace without notice, we would have shot it down. Right. So now the agreement is, okay, fine, send your plane, get rid of these people.
Remember, Colombia didn't say you can't send them here. Colombia said we're not going to take them till you send them in a humane manner, following political diplomatic protocol.
Right.
Because they follow political diplomatic protocol to come here.
The same way Biden did for 4 years when he shipped 8,000 people back.
I have a question too. Just for Michael, I have one question. So you had said about the people, they don't want to live in India, right?
They're here. They've been working.
But they don't want to live in India, is what you said.
No, they may want to live in India, but they come here. They get a job. They work for 10 years. Their kids are in the school system. They're part of the community. They don't necessarily want to go back. They have a good job.
But if I come to your house.
By the way, I'm talking about legal immigrants, people who have gotten visas and come here.
Yes, and we're talking about we want to cut severely back on those programs to give jobs to Americans.
Well, okay, so that's a question of, and that's a question of whether or not that's going to make sense economically. You may find that you cut back on those programs, and now you have trouble hiring people.
You're not going to have trouble hiring people if you cut back on those programs and you have these jobs listed at a reasonable wage. You are not going to have trouble finding people. Alex just told you
we're not underpaying
his daughter's friends who have degrees cannot find jobs. People with degrees I know cannot find jobs
because companies want to go out and make more money.
To be clear, in the tech industry, we're not underpaying these guys. We're not hiring Indians because they work cheaper. We're hiring Indians because they're the only ones who know how to do it.
But that is what I'm telling you. That is not the case. There are countless examples.
A lot about hey, Charles, respectfully.
Yeah, and there are countless people who have degrees who cannot find work, who cannot get a call back when they apply for these jobs because they're going to H-1Bs.
The unemployment rate in this country is 4.1%. Any economist for the last 200 years will tell you that that's pretty much full employment. And what we're talking about,
and the jobs need to go to people that are American, that are born in America, that don't come here and treat it like an economic zone.
I'm saying the stories about people not getting jobs is anecdotal. We're at full employment.
I think you have to take a look at the class of business. And Chaz, we've had this conversation before. There's a certain level of talent every industry seeks. And this is call it the 1%. And the 1% in the tech business are the people who graduate from the 5 Indian Institute of Technology schools. And you know what their backup schools are called? The Ivy League. Mm-hmm. That's how smart those dudes are. And every big tech company in the world, well, it's like, how many Wembys are there? Why didn't we? It's just like the NBA. Or places like that. You find that talent all over the world and you grab those people because you want your industry to succeed, not the Chinese industry to succeed.
I agree, Bill.
This is
ridiculous.
That's not the 99% of the population of workers, but let's be mindful. We're in a competitive race with the other countries of this world. We do want great talent. Whether they're born in the USA or not, why let somebody else get them?
Bill, I'm telling you as someone in the a few generations below you, we are struggling beyond belief. And we are tired of people.
I think both of us can be right in this one, Chaz. I'm saying not everyone. There's that 1 out of 1,000 people.
But that's not what's happening.
Oh, well, that's a separate problem. But I'm saying don't throw those guys out to solve the other problem.
Bill, there are listings for these jobs that are looking for immigrant work to do pickleball coaching.
Yeah, well, that's a different thing. That's got to be fixed.
This is totally ridiculous. There are people my age. I don't know, Alex, how old your daughter is, but I assume she's around my age. There are people who cannot find jobs, who have degrees.
What you don't want are the Chinese hiring
we
all
want
the
a country.
AI guys that'll then put us out of whack.
We want a country. We're not concerned about that. We're concerned about being able to afford a house, to have a family, to not have to struggle for the next 50 years. And
I'm saying is about I'm in violent agreement with you, and two things can be right.
Well, I'm telling you, as the youngest person on the panel,
as the oldest person,
I know, and we are tired of it. We don't care about racing China to Mars or about any of that shit. We want our country. We don't want a bunch of people who treat it like an economic zone.
None of those people applying for those jobs are going to play for San Antonio and replace Wemby. Not a single one.
we're okay.
So they didn't. That job is out of reach for them. They would never be hired for that job. See what I'm saying? That's
No,
I
that's a
love your
different market.
patriotism, dude. I love it. I really do, man. It's truly inspirational because I too work at a high school, and the kids asked me in a class that I taught. So I've been teaching my suicide prevention, the small groups, and all that jazz. And they said, "Craig, what do you think's missing in America?" And I knew that was a leading question because I knew her background. I said patriotism. In Florida, it's a patriotism. We all want the patriotism back in our country because that's what's been lacking. You're right. We do have a problem. It's systemic. Can we hit it with a scalpel or broadsword? I don't know. It's a problem that's not going to get fixed in a 4-year presidential term, unfortunately. You know, even if we hit it with that broadsword, I do know from my studies that countries that do not have a middle class is where we see the biggest influx of people trying to come across. Mexico is the biggest country south of us without a middle class.
Right.
That means that you're going to have people that are not going to be as disciplined as the masses that you see, like in India, where, okay, there's no middle class in India. It doesn't exist. But I'm gonna bust my ass. You're talking about a 1% of a population that's going to work to be part of that data processing center, not just the guy who says, "Hello, my name is Adam. How can I help you, please?" Because we took our call centers overseas. No, we're talking about the person who truly wants to be part of something bigger and better than themselves.
That's not what we're getting.
Yeah, and
I know. That's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. I'm agreeing with you. That's what's coming.
I think we're all agreeing, but we're all kind of disagreeing on this because Hannah and Bill Guys are saying, yeah, we want the Steve Jobs of India. We got that, okay?
There's not that many.
And Chalice is saying,
right, there's not that many of them.
There might be 1.5, and we have tens of thousands.
1% of the population of what would be considered the middle class of India. How many people we're talking about? If I had to do the math in my head, 405 people.
But we're getting more than that. And my dad works in the healthcare industry. He works with these people, and he will tell you, they're not sending their best.
The people who are not disciplined, like us, who have worked our freaking to make it to a 20-year career in the military, you are less than the 25% of the 1% that joined in the first place to make it to that point. TC, yes or no?
Agreed, 100%.
That takes incredible discipline because the Uniform Code of Military Justice is nothing to mess around with, and it'll jack you up. If you're 15 minutes late, you could be kicked out. I shit you not. So it requires extreme discipline. You're right. We're not getting the disciplined people. The people that are getting those key jobs you're talking about are the people who are busting their ass and saying, "Look what I did."
But there's people busting their ass here that aren't getting jobs.
I agree with you, man. I do.
I'm telling you guys, as someone in this age demographic, it is a powder keg right now. People are tired of it. American people are tired of it. And Bill, me and you agree on most things. This is one of them. I'm telling you, there are a ton of extremely smart, extremely gifted American young people who are starving for work, who can't find work. And to say, but this guy from India, he's just so bright. There are people here who are just as smart, if not smarter, that are not being looked at for these jobs.
Charles, have you heard of the silver tsunami?
No.
Okay, so the silver tsunami, the principle behind it means that this is the last year for what the tsunami is supposed to bring. This is the last year where the baby boomer is in retirement age, at the eldest part of the retirement age. These are the guys who were the industry masters of where we are today. There's nobody there to take their place. Do you want to know why? Because we're not finding guys who want to find the discipline to do those jobs. That silver tsunami, in my opinion, it scares the shit out of me because we don't have the guys to fill those slots who are masters of industry, who are masters of capitalism, who are
masters of trade.
Trade. Thank you. That's something I would you should look it up. I'll send it. I'll put it in Slack. I've got a teacher here who built something that it's amazing that she's teaching the kids as young as age 14. The freshmen are being taught the silver tsunami and how they need to step it up. And when kids come to me and say, "Craig, you think I should join the military?" "Yeah." "What do you want to do?" "Infantry." "No." "To hell with that, dude. Fuck that. You need to go into something that's going to give you a trade to give back to this country. Be an engineer.
I'll tell a quick story. My oldest son started about 5 years ago, started a locksmithing business. He lives in central Alabama, and he said that locksmithing is the #1 trade in America that has the least amount of people going into it, because Chalice's age group, no disrespect, Chalice, but they don't want to sit in a van with some 65-year-old guy for 12 hours at a time to learn how to pick locks.
Right.
So he put himself through like 6 different locksmithing schools and all that stuff, and he's got a business with 6 other employees now.
Yeah,
But
Bill,
there are people like Alex's daughter and her friends who
100%.
go to school, and we've been told from the time we were this tall, right, that if you do the right things, if you put your head down and you work hard and you put yourself into debt to go to college and you get a degree, that there's going to be a payoff for that. Now is the time when the people in my age group and Alex's daughter's age group were getting those degrees, we're coming out of school, and now we're being told, shit.
And that sucks,
I'm
man.
learning a trade.
Hey, Charles, I'm not talking.
And Charles,
in 2015,
Charles,
I was telling my troops, learn a trade. Don't waste your GI Bill on a freaking bachelor or a master's degree.
100%.
Learn a trade.
Right, but what I'm saying is that's great that you told those people that, but there are kids that went to school that have degrees and are now not being able to find work. And these are people who were born in this country. And this is the next generation that's going to have to live in this country long after everybody else on the panel is gone. And I think it would do everybody good to worry about the next generation of Americans, not the next generation of Victor.
Yeah, but that's not where the immigrants that are being tossed out, the people that's been here doing the work. And
but they're not from America.
Jobs.
Okay, go ahead, Michael. You got 1 minute.
Nazis to me, right?
I can do it in
Give me a
seconds.
fucking break.
I can do it in 30 seconds. Charles, I feel for you, man. I totally agree with you. I got teenagers, and my biggest fear right now is exactly what you said. We have been told in America for generations, if you keep your head down and you do a good job, you're going to be able to get your kids higher education. And the 2 goals, higher education and a roof over your head. And what are the 2 things that have gotten exorbitantly and disproportionately more expensive than everything else? Real estate and education. It's fucking criminal. I think it's why Hillary lost. I think it's why a lot of people lost, because all these elites paid attention to crazy wedge issues on the East and West Coast, and they ignored the fact that there were a lot of hardworking Americans who saw the American dream disappearing. And I agree with you 100% on that. It needs to be fixed. I will say this about the locksmith thing, and Bill, please don't take offense. I'm thinking of my parents right now. Locksmiths, that's got to be a booming industry, because there are a lot of people about to start leaving their keys in their homes. Let me tell you, right there. That silver tsunami does not know where their keys are right now. It's going to happen, trust me.
This was a phenomenal episode. We only got to one topic. I was hoping to get to Elon. Maybe in 2 weeks we'll get to him, whether he's a Nazi or not. I know, Michael, you had a good opinion on that one. We're going to get back to.
Yeah, if the question should be a neo-Nazi or not. He just needed the Nazis. They're gone.
We'll come back. I mean, I have a feeling with this presidency, there'll be no lack of topics to be told. I want to thank Tony, Gru, Charles Walls, Michael, Crazy Man, TC, Bill Geiser, and Hannum. Sub 60, do you have a winner besides me?
Oh, it's not you. It's Charles Wallace, hands down, because of his passion for what he was. I loved it. It was great. He was really standing up for his generation. So nice job, Charles.
You see, that's the twist. Nobody stands up like you do in your generation. I guarantee it.
Right.
I think
look, Nanamona even thought it was great. You guys had Nanamona so worked up. She was hitting the wrong keys. She was hitting the wrong keys on her iPad. So nice job, guys. Great show.
For everyone at Decades, we appreciate you guys coming on. Have these open discussions with people. Let's see if we can get through. We'll be back in 2 weeks, and next week we have Bros with Sub 60 Ed.
We're out.